G'day, tis a Tuesday and welcome to the Slicks on in the Wet podcast. It's the Dutch Grand Prix edition. Max Verstappen, what a home win. The championship fight is heating up. Let's get into it. Welcome one and welcome all. My name is Charlie. This is episode 2 and I'm feeling pretty patriotic. Not to Australia but to the whole country of Netherlands. What a show they've put on for this Dutch Grand Prix. I mean, what a place to be. It would have been. I was sort of Snapchatting the boys, not even during the race, like much before it, going, there's no place on earth I'd rather be than at the Zandvoort racing circuit. It was pumping. I mean, Tiesto was there, just playing tunes. It looked like a massive party, which, I mean, how can you not? So, I mean, it beat my lounge room on at about 12 a.m. on a Sunday night. So, it was an okay race if you look at the racing. But, the spectacle, the show, Max Verstappen's home Grand Prix, it was a good weekend. Good weekend for Formula One, and especially after the schmozzle that was Spa-Francorchamps last week. For those of you on the visual medium, you may be noticing a little change in the wardrobe. I've got a button-down shirt with a collar and jeans on, and that is because my mum bullied me into saying that she didn't think I presented myself well. And, I reviewed the footage and she probably had a point. The trackies and the t-shirt probably weren't doing it. So here we are, but I still do have the backwards hat on. Mostly because I haven't had a haircut in way too long. Because we are in lockdown and I follow the rules. And that's just who I am. So, now, it is about 10 o'clock on Monday here in where I am, and I recorded the first 10 minutes of this, then my camera cut out, and then I went to check it and notification come through. So this is hot off the press. Valtteri Bottas will be racing at Alfa Romeo in 2022. Shock horror. No shit. Obviously, it's crazy that it's been announced. I mean, it's not crazy. It was obvious. So, Valtteri's off to Alfa Romeo. I wonder who will replace him at Mercedes. Gee. So, obviously, George Russell, the worst kept secret in Formula One. I don't think George even tried at the end. He's just like, fuck it, I'm Mercedes. Who cares? So, George Russell Mercedes, it's official. I mean, I said it last week that it's all but done. And here we are, episode 2, hot off the press. It was literally announced about 5 minutes ago, and I would have missed it if I had have kept that initial recording. So, lucky me. Lucky I've got technical issues, and, my ability to work technology is subpar. So that's handy. Obviously, the announcement comes after Kimi Räikkönen's announcement to retire, which also happened during the week. Which, I think he's 41. So you probably expect that, but it's obviously sad to see the great man go. 2007 world champion, and all around just crazy. Well, who is he? I don't even know him. I know his name's Kimi Räikkönen, and that's about all I know about him. I mean, very elusive. Elusive is the word that comes to mind, and he's a crack up sometimes, and then he's just, what's going on? He doesn't speak, and then so end of an era. Still got Alonso, he's still kicking, but au revoir. I don't know why I went with French there, but au revoir Kimi. It's been fun, my guy, and Valtteri Bottas, obviously his replacement, as I said, hot off the press, as I said, best podcast for modern news, fresh news. So, without further ado, let's get into this Dutch Grand Prix. So, the Dutch Grand Prix that was kicked off on Friday, as they generally do in Formula 1, with practice 1. So, not too... Practice was pretty... It had a bit going for it this weekend. Usually it's a bit boring as per... I didn't watch it. I didn't personally tune in. I never do. Imagine having an F1 podcast because you love the sport and then you just don't tune in. Like, it's just... You watch the highlights on Saturday morning. It's pretty simple, isn't it? But yeah, so Yuki, Ocon and Gasly all seemed to have a little bit of a moment. They were caught spinning. Gasly just missed the barrier at turn 3. This Zandvoort circuit, although I said it created a bit of a boring race, a bit of a procession, if you will, my God, it's good to look at. You know, them onboards, they're crazy good. It's sort of like a roller coaster. You're sort of going up and down, and then sort of... That turn 3 almost looks like a wall ride when they take that high line. They sort of... They come in and just slingshot around. It's cool to watch, especially in the turn, like on the apex. If you watch it there, they just sort of fling around. It's good viewing. And Gasly obviously just kept his AlphaTauri out of the wall. Firefighter Seb was in action. What can't he do? Sebastian Vettel, 4-time world champion. He's also a marshal. We've seen him cleaning up trash. We've seen him now firefighting. You know, what can't the man do? We love to see that from Seb. Obviously, don't like to see his car being on fire. And but yeah, it was a nice little moment from Sebastian Vettel, as you get with that man. He's very likable and good for the sport. Very good for the sport is Seb Vettel, and I'm glad he's still here because he could have easily sacked it off after that Ferrari. What happened at Ferrari? From all accounts, it wasn't pleasant. And so I'm glad to see his Aston Martin killing it. I'm not sure he's killing it, but you know he looks like he's having fun again, which is good. A weird moment between Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon. I think if you watch the thing the video from afar, it looks very bad. You see Ocon, it sort of looks like he cuts him off. Lando sort of going around the outside into a right-hander, but there's a car in between them, and Ocon sort of moves across and pushes Lando off, and it looks really bad, but I don't think there's any malicious intent there for mine. I just don't think Ocon saw him. I mean, from Lando's point of view, it looked like he was just going to go like a sort of regulation pass, and Ocon just sort of no thank you. But I don't think that was what happened, but it doesn't look flash, and we've seen a bit of not flash action from the drivers this weekend, but so FP2, the only really major thing that happened, Hamilton's engine failure, which may have played a bigger part than we think. He obviously didn't get any race runs, so heavy fuel, lots of laps. That's generally what they do in FP2. He didn't get any of that because his engine failed at the start, which could have played a bit of a... Cut this. Could have had an impact on the race, I think. He obviously... They don't get the information about the tyre degradation and all that, I think, and Bottas sort of had to make all that up. Like, cut... and Bottas sort of had to pick up the slack, as it were. So, yeah, interesting one there. I don't think it would have changed the result necessarily, but, who knows. And the other thing from FP2, Mazepin, should I say. I trusted him with my predictions. I predicted 2 last week at Spa, and he did 0 in the wet. And I thought he's going to win the Drivers' Championship. So I predicted 0, and then he spun. He's brought out the red flags. He's put in the dirt, and that was annoying. Annoying for me and annoying for Max Verstappen, because that means he didn't get his lap in. And he was just like, this is a joke. But, so Mazepin, you've disappointed me, and I will have some stern words for you later on. A 1-2 for Ferrari in that session as well, which was noteworthy. I thought they were going to be quick. They always seem to be quick. They quick through the corners, and in a twisty-turny
circuit that is Zandvoort, they're always going to be pretty quick. Maybe not one too quick, but quick enough. That brings us to Saturday. Quali. Perez, I think, is the first thing we have to talk about. Sergio Perez out in Q1, which is the bottom 5 for those playing along at home. That's disappointing, especially when your teammate is on pole pretty convincingly for you to be down in... Actually, I don't know what he was. I think he might have been 16th, 17th. Oh, no, it was 15th. It was 15th, I think. But yeah, very disappointing from Sergio Perez. Obviously, maybe not completely his fault. He didn't get his second lap in. And we've seen over the course of qualifying, the second laps tend to be a lot faster. The track progression was very high. They were gaining a lot of time in their second runs, and Perez didn't manage to get that second lap in, which obviously sees him out in Q1, which is very, very disappointing. Perez has been out of it for the last 4 or 5 races, I think. I said it last week, and I predicted him to be back this week, but just nowhere again. He's got it in him. We've seen it before. We've seen it obviously in Bahrain last year. We've seen it at Baku this year under some extreme circumstances, but he's got it in him. But he seems to either be on the money or completely nowhere, which isn't what you want your second driver to be. I think your second driver needs to be good for 3rd, 4th, 5th every single week. But so disappointment from Sergio Perez there. On the other end, though, Antonio Giovinazzi, 7th, equals his best result in qualifying. I think this man is criminally underrated. I think he doesn't deserve to lose his seat. Will he be Bottas's? I mean, obviously, we've just seen Bottas is going to be at Alfa Romeo next year. Will he be Bottas' teammate? I hope so. I don't know. From all accounts, he's lost his seat, but I just think he's held it with Kimi Räikkönen, I think. Kimi Räikkönen's a world champion, and he has not lost convincingly to him. I think it's only his 3rd year in Formula 1. I think. That might be wrong. But, he hasn't had long, and he's in an Alfa Romeo. People forget, Alfa Romeo suck. They suck. And I think Giovinazzi, he just flies under the radar, and because of that, people just forget that he does good things. He's always up there with Raikkonen, I believe, and people thought he was going to lose his seat last year, and then towards the end of the year, he came real good. And I think if that Alfa Romeo is better, we'll start to see that Giovinazzi is actually a pretty good race driver. I think he'll get decent points. I truly believe that. Is his hair, beautiful long locks, skewing my opinion? Yeah, bruh. He's got a beautiful head of hair, very voluminous, and he's criminally underrated. And I'm glad he got 7th. Obviously, his race was absolutely nowhere, but yeah, he showed I think FP1 and 2 he was in the top 10 as well, so it shouldn't have been that much of a surprise, but good to see from Gio, and we love him for that. Also criminally underrated. Actually, he's probably not underrated. He's sort of just quietly flying under the radar. Pierre Gasly. I mean, what a weekend he had. Qualified 4th, and he's on it at the moment. He's the revenge story is shaping up nicely for him. Obviously dropped from Red Bull mid-season for Alex Albon, and now he's got the win in Monza last year, and absolutely killing his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who, by the way, I wouldn't have him in that seat next year. Just on the down low, I think Yuki is not up to it at all. I know he's a rookie in his first year, but my goodness, is he getting flogged. I think he qualified 16th, 17th, and Gasly 4th. Just with Honda, I don't think it's any secret that half the reason Yuki got his seat was the Honda connection, obviously to Japan. Honda aren't there next year, and I don't think Red Bull, they obviously don't take much shit. They're not scared to get rid of drivers. I mean, Gasly lost his seat in half a year at Red Bull. Yuki hasn't done anything. And look, I don't think he should have his seat. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't. Just food for thought, I think. Obviously, Seb Vettel and the Hasses nearly had a bit of a punch on. Nearly a bit of a punch on between the Hasses as well. There's a bit of a... I can't believe that no one got a penalty for that. I didn't actually read into that, but that was very surprising. I just thought there'd be a just clear time penalty, but I think it was something to do with... It was sort of not the Hasses' fault. That pit... There's a lot of talk about that banking in the pit lane because it is so tight, and yeah, but that was a scary incident for Seb. Nikita Mazepin sort of just ducked up the inside as Vettel was going to, and yeah, scary stuff. It doesn't look great. It's not great for the sport. You know, qualifying is all about clean lap, who's the fastest, and when you've got stuff like that going on, it's not flash. Obviously, with Ferrari qualifying as well, they did up in the top 6. McLaren were really down on pace. With I think Danny Rick out-qualified Lando for the third time this year, which I just quietly predicted. But yeah, Lando out in Q2. I think he qualified 13th, 12th, and yeah, Danny Rick got into Q1 but only finished 10th. They were down on pace. I said it last week. They're good in a straight line, and there's not many straight lines at Zandvoort. I didn't think that would be that bad. I didn't think they were going to be great, but yeah, they weren't flash. They got really, really beaten by Ferrari this week, and Ferrari overtook them in the Constructors' Championship, which I think McLaren are much better. Am I biased? Probably, but they just seem better. But Ferrari have really, really consistent results, which is, I suppose, why they're beating them at the moment. And yeah, they need to work that out. But also Q3, Verstappen got pole in, well, it was only like 300ths, on track, but it could have been a lot more. With obviously we heard after Verstappen had no DRS, and he had this weird double upshift after turn 3, so which probably cost him, he's in his words, 2.5, 3 tenths. So Verstappen kind of dominated qualifying, and he dominated the race. I've just flew, and for a home Grand Prix, it was prolific. It was an absolute prolific words performance from Max Verstappen, and reclaimed the World Drivers' Championship. So yes, Sunday the race, bit of a procession. And by a bit of, I mean it was. There was a few overtakes. Obviously, Perez coming from the back had to start in the pit lane. He was sort of the only one doing much. It was a clean start. Obviously, the king of starts, Fernando Alonso, he had a crack around the outside of turn 3. Everyone sort of went the inside line, because there's 2 lines. You can go the inside, you can go the really high up on the bank, you can sort of slingshot yourself around, and on turn 1, a few opted for the inside lines. Alonso's just like, righto, champion, I'll just whip round here, and he got around a few. So the king of starts, Fernando Alonso, doing his thing again. The only other notable thing that happened at the start, Giovinazzi and Carlos Sainz. Carlos may have forced him off a bit, but I don't know. It was neither here nor there. I don't think there was that much in it, but unfortunate for our boy Giovinazzi. He sort of lost his way a bit there, and I think he ended up finishing 15th. So not flash. The Haas battle. I think this is lap 2 or 3. The Nikita of old sort of started to rear his ugly head. He had me there for a bit. Old Nikita. He had me. I thought he might have been a good bloke, but we've seen in F2 him and Yuki and forcing people off, and just it's starting to get ugly at Haas and Haas. I don't know how to say it, but we've seen this before from Haas, but yeah, it doesn't look great. I mean, after the race, there was I think Schumacher said their relationship is beyond repair, and Nikita was sort of just really defensive, saying he did nothing wrong, and it didn't look flash what he did on that home finish straight. He sort of nearly put him into the pit, the wall on entry. So yeah, not flash. I'm going to be very keen to watch the Netflix documentary Drive to Survive on them too, because I think it'll be a bit spicy, just quietly. The good thing about Zandvoort, it provided a good strategy battle. The only way, because Lewis was way off the pace of Max. Max had the pace advantage by a mile, so Lewis decided to go to a two-stop, and I think that Red Bull did the smart thing. They just followed straight away, so it nearly worked for Mercedes, but Bottas just wasn't able to hold him up. He sort of just waltzed past him. Max sort of held off a bit, catching Bottas, because he knew as soon as he caught Bottas was going to sort of hold him back, so Hamilton could come around Max, and but no, Max played it to perfection. He sort of waited to catch up to Bottas until he knew he could pass him, and then I think it literally took him one straight, and he was gone. So that didn't really work, and then Bottas just let Lewis through. So Bottas didn't really do much. We seen at the end. Then Bottas pitted. I think they pitted both Mercedes. I think Bottas complained about some vibrations, and Bottas nearly went and set the fastest lap, and nearly took it off Lewis. And he set the fastest 2 sectors, and then you hear Valtteri James, please abort the fastest lap. And we seen him lift off a touch, but he still got the fastest lap, and it was good from Bottas. I think he obviously did know. He knew he was going to Alfa Romeo. I would have loved to see him just send a big FU to Mercedes and just take that fastest lap, but then they pitted Lewis anyway, which I think someone said I think it was Jenson Button said on commentary that it was a bit of a weird move, because Hamilton was like 3 seconds off Max, which it was heaps. But if Max makes one mistake, Lewis could be in. So to pit and be 25 seconds, I just thought it was a bit of a weird one. Obviously, Max didn't make a mistake, so it was probably the right move in the end with hindsight. But it's just risky. Like, you'd hate to see Max just sort of maybe go into a gravel trap, and then Lewis could have easily passed him and take the win. So I thought that was a weird one, but obviously it was fine from the end. Other things of note, Russell, the 5-second penalty for speeding the pit lane. I think that's easy to do, and pretty black and white penalty, that one. If you're over the speed limit, there's a 5-second penalty. Nothing too much to report there. Obviously, it stuffed him up a bit, because then that pretty much took all point scoring opportunities away from him. But I don't think he was worried about that. He knew he's going to Mercedes, and he'll have plenty more point scoring opportunities next year, without a doubt. So that's all good from Russell. Obviously a bit disappointing, but yeah. And then I don't even know why he did. Mazepin DNF'd on that 40. I think Sonoda did as well. So yeah, I don't even know why either of them did. It didn't really say, and it's just obviously a mechanical issue of some sort. Sorry. So that put an end to their day. So that was the Dutch Grand Prix. Championship is heating up. It's gone back and forth now for a bit. Obviously, a very just convincing win from Max, which is good to see at a home race. Obviously, Lewis had his moment at Silverstone, and now Max had his, and now we're off to Monza. So yeah, that was the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort for 2021. Rightio, it is the prediction reaction time. If you didn't see, I'll put them on Instagram, and in the last episode, I gave some predictions for this Dutch Grand Prix. Qualifying, I had Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas. That didn't happen. It went, Verstappen obviously got pole, and then Hamilton. But I got Bottas right. I had Bottas in 3. I ripped on him for ages and then said he's actually a pretty good qualifier. And so I got that one right. So not the worst. I just had Verstappen and Hamilton around the wrong way. And then in the race, I got pretty wrong. I had Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez. Obviously, we spoke earlier, but Perez was nowhere. He actually ended up getting points in the end. He put one of the better. He can come through the field. We've seen it in his first win. He spun on turn 1, was coming last, and then come through the field to win. And then, he ended up coming. He started from the pit lane and come through, and he got points. So it wasn't the worst drive from Perez. He's really good from coming from terrible positions, but he's really good at putting himself in terrible positions as well. So but obviously I had Hamilton winning, followed by Verstappen, and Verstappen obviously got the win. So I was wrong there. Headline you'll see, I had D. Ricciardo outperforms Al Norris. It was pretty close. I'm claiming that it was pretty close. I won't give it to myself, but I think it was pretty close. Ricciardo obviously outqualified him, but Norris did really, really well for his strategy. They had him going long, and I think he did like 40 laps or something on the mediums, which massive overcut. And just, I think Ricciardo may have played that number 2 driver role a bit. So Norris ended up beating Ricciardo, but for pure pace, it was pretty close. I think Norris just beat him because of a better strategy, and Ricciardo outqualified him. But he didn't outperform him though, so I won't give it to myself. But it was pretty close. Number of Mazda spins, as I said earlier, had 0. He had 1. He brought out red flags in FP2, so that was disappointing from me. And the last one I had, will Giovinazzi's hair look good? You betcha it did. Doesn't go wrong that man. Rightio, it's time for everyone's favourite segment, the Slick 7. I wasn't sure about it last week, but I'm sticking by it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Kimi Räikkönen during the week announced his retirement from Formula 1, and in honour of that, we've got the 7 best Kimi moments. So in no particular order, I've got one of 7 at Baku 2017, I think it was, the gloves and steering wheel. It's a great team radio. You just see Kimi being wheeled out, and he's just screaming, just gloves, steering wheel. Oh, that's a terrible impression. What am I doing? He's just screaming for his gloves and his steering wheel. That man has some communication issues because he can never seem to get his point across. But man just wanted his gloves and steering wheel. And to be fair to him, pretty essential during the race. The steering wheel in particular. You can maybe go without the gloves, but geez, you'd have a hard time getting around without a steering wheel. So, I mean, fair play to the man. He needed it, and he got it in the end. So that was good of him. Number 2 of 7, the 2018 awards night, drunk Kimi. I mean, that whole night is just, find any video you can of Kimi Räikkönen at the 2018 awards giving night. It is the funniest thing you'll see. He is just, there's videos of him talking to Seb Vettel. Seb's just looking at him like, oh yeah, yep. And he's just like telling him all this. I'd hate to know what he was telling him. And then they get him on stage and he's doing these big fist pumps and like clapping and just like grabbing these old blokes around the shoulders, like grabbing his award, like putting it up in the air. It's like a black tie, bloody bow tie event, and he's just he had a good night. There's a good video outside him leaving. They're trying to get him into the car, and there's heaps of fans there, and he just shoves his off his security card and goes over to the fans. He's giving them the business. He's like, yeah. He's like handing out autographs. This is a man who doesn't speak, by the way. I thought he was mute, and then all of a sudden he's giving them the business, which it's find any video on YouTube you can, and you'll be having a good day after that. Number 3 of 7, Monaco. I don't know what year. He had an engine trouble, and he DNF'd, and everyone's disappointed. Oh, I know. And then 15 minutes later, we get this camera shot. He hasn't gone back to the pit lane. He is on his yacht, shirtless on his yacht. He hasn't even gone back to the pits. He's just gone straight to his yacht. He's on the back of it with 20 of his best mates, just living his life. I mean, he's watching the race from his yacht. He's just DNF. He was in that race, and now he's shirtless on the back of his yacht. I mean, come on. What a man. And that just shows you Kimi, he just does not give a shit. Just doesn't give a shit. And we love him for it. Number 4, it's a classic. You've all heard it. You probably haven't, but he's asking his engineer about the drink. He really wants his drink. And you see the engineer over and over, Kimi, you will not have the drink. And Kimi's like, yeah, but is it turned on? Kimi, you will not have the drink. Yeah, I get that, but is the switch turned on? Kimi, you will not have the drink. And it's one of, as I said before, communication breakdown. It's hard to listen to, but it's pretty funny at the same time. And yeah, I'm not sure if he ever got the drink. Legend says he hasn't drank since that day. So, hopefully he can find a bit of time in his retirement to, sit down to a nice ice cold water. On me, Kimi. Number 5. There was a presentation by Pele, famous soccer man. I don't know soccer. And I think it was, who was it? I think it was Martin Brundle. I don't know. Went up to interview him and said, "You've just missed the presentation." And he says, "Oh, okay." And he said, Do you reckon he'll forgive you or something like that?" And he just goes, "Oh, well, I was having a shit." So, he was having a shit. I don't know what else to tell you. So that was, fair enough. On live TV, he just announced to the world he's missed the presentation because he was having a shit. So, that is Kimi Räikkönen in about 12 seconds. It's a 12-second interview, and he's announced to the world he was taking a shit. So I don't know what else he could have said, if I'm honest. People give him flack for it, but no, it's hilarious to watch. Number 6 or 7, it's in the classic from the Netflix series Drive to Survive. He just says all the other drivers going through why they like racing. He says, they're all like, it's the adrenaline, it's so fast, the pressure, and being the best. And it just cuts to Kimi. He's like, this is more like a hobby for me, so obviously I don't need to do it if I don't want. It's Kimi Räikkönen to a T, and that's why I've chucked it in here. And number 7, the Slick 7, just I think there's an issue. He says it about 25 times, and they just put it on repeat. Every time he starts a sentence, he just I don't know, he just can't be bothered speaking, so he just goes and also just Kimi Räikkönen to a T, and we love him for it. Rightio, it's time for a new segment for Slicks on In the Wet. As you know already, I'm Australian. So this is a segment, the Aussie Review. So essentially what I'll be doing is looking through F1, F2, F3, and possibly other championships around the world and see how our Aussies are doing. I'm all for a bit of homegrown talent, especially on the international stage. There's nothing better than people killing, especially, maybe it's just because the Olympics have been on, but, people killing it on, it's all good that the footy players and that, they're having a bit of fun here, but when you see someone like a Dylan Alcott just dominate on the international stage, there's something about that. It's like the Aussies on the world, because we're a small country, so we do pretty well. So just want to give a quick shout out to all the Australians in the motorsporting industry. So starting off with F1, Danny Rick, is he back? Sort of, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to judge. He also out-qualified his teammate, Lando Norris, as we said earlier, and he's probably not back to the Danny Rick of old, obviously, until he sort of gets maybe a podium or two. Then I reckon he'll be back, but he just can't seem to grasp that McLaren, which is disappointing because I thought he was going to kill it. So the fact that he hasn't sort of sucks a little bit, but we love him still, and he's flying the flag for Australian motorsport at the moment. Obviously, it was Mark Webber, and then they sort of passed the flag. And I had to do a bit of research into F2 and F3, and we've actually got a bit there. So it is exciting as Danny Rick he's in the back end of his career. We know that he's still got a lot to give. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's a lot coming through, which is exciting. So Danny Rick, is he back? Maybe, sort of, hopefully. Hopefully he just comes out in Monza, just gets on pole. Go on. Please, Danny Rick. Just do that. Just put it on pole. Maybe not win the race. Just cheeky podium. Who cares? Just come back, please. F2, Oscar Piastri is killing it. He's currently leading F2 halfway through the season. It's an 8-race season. They've had 4, and Piastri's leading. I haven't heard this man in the conversation at all for any F1 seats. I don't get why. It is his first year in F2. He won F3 last year. Is he 2 years? I don't get how it works. But I have not heard his name mentioned, which is he's leading F2. Surely doesn't that mean you're a shoo-in for an F1 seat if you want it? If it's available, sorry. But yeah, I haven't heard his name. I think it's put a bit of respect on that man's name. Oscar Piastri, future Formula 1 world champion. You heard it here first. 6th of September 2021. The 7th, sorry. But yeah, Oscar Piastri, he's killing it in F2, which is great to see. He'll be in F1 very soon. And let's hope he can finish off that F2 season on top. I know that, I'm going to stuff up his name, Guigon Zhu. That was my best attempt. He's pretty close behind. And I have heard him in a few conversations for F1 seats. So Piastri's beating him though. So get Piastri in there immediately. F3, Jack Doohan is coming second at the moment. So we're up there. F2 and F3, we're kind of killing it. Jack Doohan is the son of Aussie legend. And killing it himself. So honestly, haven't watched any F3. I just did a bit of research before, and I had heard his name a bit, and so power to him. Hopefully he can come through. I think he's a bit behind whoever's in first. But yeah, he's beating the likes of Arthur Leclerc, if you've heard of him, Charles Leclerc's little brother. So he'll be coming through. And I think he's a year younger than me. He might be 17, which is hard to swallow. That sucks. But jeez, I'm old. That's crazy. I shouldn't be old. But when you've got blokes like Jack Doohan coming second in F3, a year younger than you, jeez, you're getting up there. We've also got another driver in F3, Callan Williams. He's sitting 19th. There is 34 races in that, 34 drivers, sorry, in that championship. So 19th is not too bad, nothing to be ashamed of. He actually got a podium in the second race of the season I've seen. So, hopefully see him in the mix soon. Don't know much about him, to be honest. Going to be honest, but we'll learn together through this segment, hopefully, and just sort of give some light to some Aussie legends. So, yeah, keep going. That wraps up the Netherlands chat. Now we look forward to the Italian Grand Prix. Obviously, we've got a triple header. So we've had Spa, now we've had the Dutch Grand Prix, and now we're off to Monza. So obviously, huge race on the calendar. Monza is a staple of Formula One. It has been forever, I think. I think it was there in 1950, and it still is. Obviously, home race for Ferrari and AlphaTauri, so exciting for them. We've seen some absolute crazy moments there. Charles Leclerc's win, Pierre Gasly winning last year, so very exciting stuff. So, just going to give some predictions, and we'll see how we go. Saturday, I don't know how to pick the 1 and 2. I've just gone for Max and Lewis. Max, he's just too hard. You can't go past him at the moment. He's dominating. And But that is up for debate. I don't know. I don't know how to pick one of them two. There's nothing I can go off. It's pure gut feel. But for the 3 on Saturday, I've gone Lando. As I said previously, I don't think Bottas will be anywhere because I don't think he'll give a shit. And I think Perez, he just hasn't shown much in qualifying. And I think the McLaren's going to be the next best car, especially because Monza's a power track. We've seen it in Spa, another power track that Lando was quickest until he crashed out in Q3. But so I think Lando will be in the mix again. Hopefully that means Danny Rick will be in the mix. I think McLaren will get one back on Ferrari this weekend. So, yeah, I think Lando will be well and truly in the mix on Saturday. So I've put him in there at 3. The Sunday, I've just gone Max and Lewis again. Again, because I've got no idea. It's too hard to predict. They could crash into each other at turn 1, which, that first turn 1 and 2 chicane at Monza is pretty ruthless. There's a long run down there, so very keen to see what happens there. And the 3, I've gone Perez. I don't know how to say it, but Checo, please be somewhere this weekend because he's been nowhere. I haven't seen him for 2 months. It's Perez, do something. Please get that podium because, you've just they signed him too early. I swear to God, as soon as they sign him, he's been absolute dog shit. So Perez, feel free to show up at any time. That is of your convenience. I'd hate to inconvenience you. So, just if you're not doing anything, maybe come to Monza. So that'd be good. Headline you'll see. I've got both McLarens in the top. I've got written down here 6, but I'm gonna have a crack. I'm gonna go 5. I reckon McLaren are gonna be really strong this weekend. So hence I reckon they're gonna be top 5. So I reckon it's gonna be the podium. Maybe one of them on there, but 4, 5. Danny Rick and Lando. So that'd be good to see. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And then Mazda spins. I've gone the 1, and I reckon it'll be. I think it's the Lesmos. Is that what they called? The chicane. One of the chicanes. There's like 2 chicanes in that sector. I reckon it'll be one of them. Just prediction for some reason, but yeah. So I've got 1 Mazda spin for the Italian Grand Prix. That brings us to the end of episode 2 of Slicked On in the Wet. I hope you have enjoyed. Feel free to message me on the Instagram at any time. I'm always looking for stuff to talk about. If you've maybe got any ideas or just some topics, that might be a bit controversial that I could cover, that'd be good. Help me get this rolling with some content. So appreciate anyone who's listening, and hope you've enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday after Monza. See you then.